Fibromyalgia. What is it? Who gets it and why? I mean, this is a question I get asked all the time. Well, fibromyalgia is really just a name given to a group of symptoms that people have in common. Diffuse, achy, sometimes disabling pain, fatigue, poor sleep, irritable bowel syndrome, bloating, gas, indigestion, loose bowel movements, constipation, brain fog, fibroflogs, restless leg syndrome. The list can be rather lengthy. And unfortunately, this makes fibromyalgia a challenge for most practitioners. And we're still at the point right now where there's many doctors who still don't believe fibromyalgia is real. And I'm sure you've heard that. And the doctors who say they will treat fibromyalgia don't really understand it. Certainly, this is the case in conventional medicine. Trying to drug your way out of fibromyalgia just really doesn't work, at least not long term. There's certainly a time and a place for prescription medication, but long term, if you're trying to cover up every symptom associated with fibromyalgia, it's going to be a real challenge, and oftentimes it leads to more side effects. There are different triggers, different causes that create this thing called fibromyalgia. Whether that's small fiber neuropathy, whether that's leaky gut, food allergies, low thyroid function, low sex hormones. There's different triggers. It's not just one. It can be numerous ones. That's what makes it so complicated. And just trying to drug your way out of fibromyalgia, again, is a dead end. But also just taking supplements or exercise or some of the other things that are recommended out there. If you're not working with somebody that really understands fibromyalgia, can help you find and fix the underlying causes, you're really going to struggle to overcome the symptoms associated with fibromyalgia. Hi, I'm Dr. Rodger Murphree, yourfibrodoctor.com. And for the last 25 years, I specialize in fibromyalgia. One of the drivers of fibromyalgia is trauma and stress. Those are the two biggies. You know, some people will say, Dr. Murphy, I don't feel like I'm under stress. You know, I had to give up my job and, really cut back on my activities, stay at home. And I really don't feel like I'm under stress. And what I share with them is, I understand that, but there's different aspects of stress. There's different forms. So there's mental stress, there's physical stress, there's chemical stress, there's environmental stressors, loud noises, bright lights. There's all kind of stressors or stimulations that can tax your body's ability to be able to get through day-to-day living. One of the patients I had earlier today, I was sharing this with a new patient, and she was saying, well, Dr. Murphy, what's brought all these symptoms on? I said, well, typically it's some type of stressor or stressors that were the straw that broke the camel's back. We know that in fibromyalgia, a lot of individuals come from a very toxic childhood or had a very stressful childhood. And so at an early age, they got under a lot of stress, whether that was verbal abuse, physical abuse, moving from from city to city and, military families. It could have been an illness, a sickness. Maybe it was a death of a sibling. There's all different reasons that can bring the stress on at an early age. But when that happens, sometimes you lose the plasticity to rebound from that stress. And now you're vulnerable. So as you go through adolescence and you get, go through high school, maybe go to college or start your first job or get married or have your first child, that's the straw that breaks the camel's back. You just can't rebound from these additional stressors. You did fine up until whatever it was that came along, an illness, a very demanding college curriculum or job or just getting married. I mean, that's a great stressor, but it can be stressful. And what I share with her, that's it. And again, she shared with me, I don't really remember being under a lot of stress. But what I went to find out, what I'm going to find out is validate what I found out in the interview, is that she's had mold toxicity issues in her house on and off for the last 5 years. She finally remediated and got it all cleaned out, but they had water damage in an older home they were living in 2 or 3 different rooms. They kind of patched everything up and, did what they needed to do. I'm pretty certain once we do a mold test on her, we'll see that she is loaded. Not just her house was loaded with mold. She's going to be loaded with mold. And mold is a toxin. Environmental things that you come in contact with can be very stressful to the body. I've had numerous patients over the years who have mold toxicity issues. Now, it's usually not the only trigger or cause of their underlying pain, fatigue, brain fog, low moods, irritable bowel, but mold toxins can create all the symptoms we see in fibromyalgia. So I think she's also got a problem with her thyroid. She's getting very basic thyroid testing. or vitamin D levels below 30. It needs to be above 50. I mean, there's several other things, but I feel like we're going to find mold, and that's going to be a big part of what we got to do is fix that. And I'll put in the comments a little bit. I did a PowerPoint presentation about mold. I'll put that. You can just search down in there. But if you've ever seen water damage in your home or your business, it may be that you've been exposed to mold, and mold, again, can create all the symptoms that we see in fibromyalgia. If you're struggling to find answers and can't find them, and there's not many practitioners who really understand fibromyalgia. There's some that say they treat fibromyalgia, but you've got to find somebody who's really specialized in fibromyalgia, worked with hundreds, hopefully even thousands of fibromyalgia patients over the years, and is having success doing so. It's not about take this drug or take this supplement or do this diet. It's a very comprehensive approach. But the first thing you've got to do is find out where your body's broken down. And again, it's going to be more than one trigger. It can be numerous. And typically with my patients that I work with, it's numerous different things that we find in the testing. But once we find that, now we can start to fix it and they can get their life back. You can see all the testimonials at my website, yourfibrodoctor.com. There's free resources there. If you need some help and are ready to be proactive, it's not easy, but you can, with my help or practitioner really specialized in fibromyalgia, you can get over fibromyalgia. You certainly can dramatically reduce your symptoms and start to get your life back rather than learning to live with it, which is just existing. You can actually feel good enough to be able to do things that you have given up over the last few years having fibromyalgia. If you want to set up a consult with me, I work with patients all over the world through video conferencing, and you can do that at fibroconsults.com. You can see more information about that at yourfibrodoctor.com.